Someone who says your name often during a conversation is usually trying to build a personal connection with you. Have you ever noticed that when someone says your name repeatedly during a normal conversation, not just at the start or end, it feels a little odd? It catches your attention, doesn't it? You might even ask yourself, why does this person keep saying my name? Or are they thinking something about me? There's actually a psychological reason behind that. Our name carries power. It's not just a word, it's our identity. It's the very first word we ever learned to respond to as children. Even if someone whispers our name in a crowded place, we instantly turn toward the sound. That's because our brain is hardwired from a young age to treat our name as something highly important. Humans naturally feel more connected to people who see us for who we are. And one of the most subtle but powerful ways to show someone you truly see them is by using their name in conversation. When someone says your name mid-sentence, it's like they're saying, I'm not just talking to a random person, I'm talking specifically to you. That makes the interaction feel closer and more personal. It bridges the social gap and replaces it with warmth, familiarity, and a sense of importance. It's a subconscious strategy humans use to build deeper bonds without needing eye contact, touch, or long conversations. Just saying your name is enough to say, you matter to me in this moment. On the flip side, though, repeating someone's name isn't always a sign of intimacy or connection. Sometimes it's a tactic used to gain the upper hand in a conversation. For example, a boss who repeats your name may not be trying to be friendly. They might be asserting dominance or control. Similarly, salespeople are trained to use your name frequently. They'll say, "Do you like this, Mr. John?" Or, "Would you like me to show you another option, Mr. John?" They're not doing it out of genuine care. It's a psychological marketing trick. It creates a fake sense of familiarity, makes you feel acknowledged, and subtly increases the chances that you'll trust them or agree to buy something. Beyond creating closeness or control, repeating someone's name can also be used to regain attention. If the speaker senses the listener is distracted or zoning out, they might suddenly say the person's name in the middle of a sentence. This acts like a psychological reset button. Hearing your name triggers the part of the brain linked to alertness, instantly bringing your attention back. This technique is especially common in public speaking. When an audience starts losing interest, the speaker might say something like, "As John mentioned earlier," and suddenly everyone snaps back to attention, partly out of curiosity and partly out of fear that they might be the next one named. From a behavioral psychology perspective, the desire to feel seen and significant is deeply embedded in all of us. We fear being overlooked. We fear being invisible. And one of the simplest ways to affirm our presence is when someone remembers and uses our name, especially when they don't have to. So, when someone says your name in casual conversation or during small talk, they're sending a subtle message. You're not just part of the crowd, you're someone I'm choosing to talk to. Sensitive people who are attuned to emotional cues can feel this almost instantly. There's also another psychological layer. Using someone's name often actually makes them feel good. Our brains are naturally more responsive to the sound of our own name than any other word. If you want someone to like you, feel safe with you, or really listen to you, just saying their name naturally during conversation can open that emotional door. It's not magic, it's biology. Neuroscience shows that when people hear their own name, the reward centers in the brain light up. It increases feelings of self-worth and connection. However, if you want to know whether someone is truly trying to connect with you or just using your name for effect, you need to pay attention to more than just the words. Listen to the tone of voice. Is it warm and kind? Are they smiling? Do they make eye contact? If they say your name with relaxed body language and friendly energy, it's a good sign they genuinely want to bond. But if they say it with a flat face, cold tone, or in a controlling rhythm, it might just be a tool they're using, not a feeling they truly have. In the end, saying someone's name during a conversation is more than just a habit. It's a language of emotion and intention. It can signal care, attempt connection, or even manipulation. That's why it's important to listen beyond the words. Pay attention to the emotion, the rhythm, the context, and you'll be surprised how clearly you can read someone's mind. 2. When someone is lying, they often avoid eye contact or blink rapidly. When people lie, their bodies can't fully control the natural responses that happen automatically. Even if the brain is working hard to craft a convincing lie, the body will still leak certain signs without the person realizing it. One of the clearest signs is avoiding eye contact or blinking more frequently. And there's a strong psychological explanation behind why this behavior tends to appear when someone is being dishonest. To understand this, we need to know that lying requires far more mental effort than telling the truth. Lying isn't just saying something untrue. It's about inventing a story, then carefully controlling facial expressions, tone of voice, gestures, and wording so everything fits together seamlessly. This multitasking forces the brain to work harder than usual. And when the brain is under pressure, it often fails to fully manage small body movements, especially around the eyes. That's why liars may unconsciously avoid eye contact or blink more often. It's a physical manifestation of stress and cognitive overload. When a person lies, they often feel like they're under threat, scared of being caught. This fear activates the sympathetic nervous system, the same system that causes our hearts to race, our breathing to quicken, and our hands to sweat when we're nervous. Avoiding eye contact is one of the brain's automatic defense mechanisms. Eye contact typically signals confidence, openness, and honesty. So someone who's hiding something or feels uncertain about what they're saying will often find it hard to maintain eye contact naturally. However, not everyone who avoids eye contact is lying. Some people are naturally shy or socially anxious. In psychology, this is linked to an avoidant personality style. These individuals may avoid eye contact even when they're telling the truth, simply because facing people directly makes them feel uncomfortable or unsafe. So if we're using eye behavior to read someone's honesty, we must also consider their personality and the overall context of the situation. Blinking rapidly has a similar psychological root. On average, people blink 15 to 20 times per minute. But under stress, when someone is anxious or when their brain is overloaded, like during a lie, the muscles around the eyes receive more stimulation. This often leads to increased blinking, another way the body tries to release tension or unconsciously break eye contact. This is one of the key body language signs experts look for during interviews or interrogations. Interestingly, some people are very skilled at lying. Trained actors, salespeople, or those who often live with secrets might learn to control these signals. They may try to maintain direct eye contact, reduce blinking, or force a smile to appear more genuine. But this takes effort. In such cases, what might leak out instead is the unnatural stillness, eye contact that feels too intense, too perfect. Psychologically, overly rigid eye contact or a lack of natural blinking can also be a warning sign. It's not normal for a person to stare without breaking eye contact at all. It can feel unnerving and unnatural. The psychological theory that explains this well is the dual process theory of cognition. It says that the brain has two systems, one fast and automatic, used for instinctive reactions, and one slow and deliberate, used for thoughtful responses. When someone lies, they're forced to rely more on the second system. They have to think carefully, plan, and control everything they say and do. That overload increases the chance of physical leaks, like avoiding eye contact or blinking, compared to someone who's telling the truth and isn't overthinking or feeling anxious. But here's a warning. Reading someone's truthfulness based on body language alone can be misleading. Behavior always has multiple possible causes. A person might avoid eye contact simply because they're insecure, not because they're lying. Or someone might blink more due to physical issues, dry eyes, stress, or even medication. To accurately read someone, we have to look at more than one sign. We need to consider tone of voice, speech rhythm, facial expressions, body language, and whether their words and emotions match. To put it simply, avoiding eye contact and blinking rapidly can be useful clues when spotting deception, but they should never be used as the only indicators. Humans are far more complex than the body language they show.
Observing people takes time and attention. We need to notice changes in their behavior before, during, and after they speak. If someone suddenly acts differently without a clear reason, or if they seem unusually nervous during minor topics, that's when we should take notice. Psychology doesn't aim to read minds with 100% accuracy. Instead, it helps us understand human behavior on a deeper level, to uncover the intentions hiding behind their words and actions. Because very often, people don't express how they truly feel through speech. Their bodies speak first, even when they don't realize it. And that's where the observant listener has the chance to understand others far better than words alone can reveal.
3. When someone tilts their head slightly while listening, it often means they're interested and trying to understand you. The subtle gesture of slightly tilting the head while listening may seem minor, so minor that most people don't even notice they're doing it, nor realize when someone else is doing it to them. But in psychology, this is a deeply meaningful behavior. It's one of the most telling body language signals, revealing openness, trust, and a desire to understand what the other person is saying. Often, the person doing it has no idea that they're showing this kind of emotional transparency. Head tilting is a natural human behavior that can be traced back to infancy. When babies hear unfamiliar or interesting sounds, they instinctively tilt their heads to one side as if to get a clearer sense of the sound's direction and meaning. In adults, the same part of the brain that processes sound and comprehension also triggers the body to respond. So tilting the head is like a physical way for the brain to say, "I'm listening carefully and want to absorb this more deeply." That's why this small gesture can be such a strong indicator of genuine interest. But head tilting doesn't only show interest. Sometimes it's used to lower emotional defenses and appear non-threatening. This kind of body language signals gentleness, friendliness, and approachability. It contrasts with more closed-off behaviors like sitting rigidly, frowning, or crossing the arms, which can come across as guarded or defensive. When someone tilts their head, it makes the speaker feel heard, understood, and accepted. It softens the atmosphere and fosters emotional connection. Psychologically, the motivation behind a head tilt usually comes from two core drivers. The first is the genuine desire to understand what's being said. These are people who are truly listening. They might admire or trust the speaker, or they're mentally and emotionally engaged with the topic. The second group includes those who may not fully understand the message, but they want the speaker to feel comfortable or liked. This is often seen in social situations, conversations with important people, or delicate negotiations. The gesture becomes a social cue that says, "I'm open to what you're saying, even if I don't fully get it yet." Beyond motivation, there are also hidden influences like fear and expectation that play a role. Some people tilt their head because they're afraid of misunderstanding something important, so they use this gesture to reassure the speaker, silently saying, "I'm really paying attention." Others tilt their head because they expect to receive something valuable, an answer, a clue, or information they've been hoping for. This kind of expectation activates the brain's attention systems and influences the body to show signs of receptiveness. Of course, head tilting should never be interpreted in isolation. To truly read someone's intentions, you need to observe other signs as well: facial expressions, eye contact, and the rest of their body language. If someone tilts their head while smiling gently, making eye contact, or nodding slightly, chances are they're emotionally involved in what's being said. They're connecting with you and genuinely trying to understand. But if they tilt their head with a blank expression or while looking away, it might just be a habitual movement, not a sign of real interest. You can observe this behavior in everyday interactions. When you're speaking and your friend tilts their head slightly while looking at you, they're likely listening closely and emotionally engaged. Or when you're telling a story and the listener gently tilts their head and nods slowly without interrupting, that's a sign of active listening. On the other hand, if someone sits too stiffly, stares without blinking, or shows no body language at all, it could mean they're evaluating you or emotionally distancing themselves. In communication psychology, it's important to remember that true connection isn't built on words alone. It's made up of emotions, feelings, and trust, all of which are transmitted through body language.
Head tilting is what's known as a non-threatening gesture. It's a naturally occurring social signal that humans use to form relationships without even thinking about it. It comes from the limbic system, the part of the brain that governs emotion and our sense of safety. When the brain feels we're safe and engaged with someone, it sends signals to tilt the head, like a puppy curiously listening to its owner. It's a sign of wanting to connect, understand, and draw closer. In the end, no behavior has a fixed meaning. A head tilt doesn't always mean someone is interested, but it's often one of the clearest clues we can use to gauge what's going on inside someone's mind. When paired with tone of voice, eye movement, and other consistent behaviors, it reveals intention, emotion, and motivation, often more accurately than the person's spoken words. The more we understand these natural human responses, the better we can read others, not just through their words, but through the subtle signals they send without even realizing it.
4. Biting the lower lip often signals anxiety or hidden emotions. At first glance, biting the lower lip might seem like a simple habit, just a nervous tick or a casual movement of the mouth. But when viewed through the lens of psychology, it becomes a powerful form of body language, one that reveals what's really going on beneath the surface. It's not just a random mouth movement. It's often an automatic reaction to emotions that the person doesn't feel safe expressing out loud. When someone feels nervous, shy, insecure, or is trying to suppress their feelings, like love, attraction, discomfort, guilt, or fear, this small behavior tends to slip out unintentionally. It becomes the body's way of expressing something that words can't. Like a pressure valve, biting the lip releases a bit of the tension building up inside without making a sound. The human brain has built-in responses to strong emotions. Whether it's stress, embarrassment, fear, or intense excitement, the brain activates certain muscles automatically, especially those in the face, which are extremely sensitive and reactive. The lips, in particular, are packed with nerve endings. That's why biting the lip becomes a go-to emotional outlet. It's the brain's subtle way of calming the body and preventing an emotional overflow. The human brain has built-in responses to strong emotions. Whether it's stress, embarrassment, fear, or intense excitement, the brain activates certain muscles automatically, especially those in the face, which are extremely sensitive and reactive. The lips, in particular, are packed with nerve endings. That's why biting the lip becomes a go-to emotional outlet. It's the brain's subtle way of calming the body and preventing an emotional overflow. The emotions that lead someone to bite their lower lip can vary widely. It might be nervousness when speaking to someone they secretly like, anxiety over giving the wrong answer, fear of being judged, or discomfort when hearing something personal or difficult. It can also be a sign that someone is trying to hold something back, like tears, anger, or words they don't want to say out loud. So biting the lip doesn't automatically mean someone is lying or being fake. It simply means they're holding something in, and if we look closely, we can get a glimpse into what that might be. Our subconscious plays a huge role in this behavior. Some people grew up in environments where showing emotion wasn't safe. They were told not to cry, not to speak out, not to show weakness. Over time, these individuals learn to express their emotions in subtle, nonverbal ways, like biting the lip when they feel hurt but don't want to say it, or when they want to speak up but are afraid of the consequences. These behaviors become deeply ingrained coping mechanisms, stored in the brain's memory system and triggered automatically when similar emotional situations arise. There's another layer to this behavior as well: inner emotional conflict. For example, someone may want to speak the truth but feel unable to, or they may want to confess their feelings but fear rejection. Maybe they're hiding something but unsure whether they should reveal it. This mental tug-of-war, I want to say it but I don't, often causes the body to bite the lip as a way to keep control. It's like putting a physical lock on their own emotions. When trying to read someone who's displaying this behavior, we can't rely on it alone. We have to consider the whole situation. If someone bites their lip when asked a personal question or during an emotionally loaded topic, it likely means they're holding something back. If they bite their lip while avoiding eye contact, crossing their arms, or leaning away, that's a sign they may be uncomfortable or even hiding something. But if they bite their lip while smiling gently or during a romantic or vulnerable moment, it may just mean they're shy, flustered, or savoring the feeling, not necessarily hiding anything.
Also important is how often and how intensely the person bites their lip. Some people bite so hard that their lips become red or swollen. This can indicate deeper anxiety, not just short-term nerves, but long-standing emotional tension. Often, these people develop the habit as a way to cope with a lack of control over their environment. For example, someone who experienced trauma or instability in childhood might develop this behavior to deal with emotions they never felt safe expressing out loud. In some cases, lip biting becomes a regular habit, even when the person isn't under pressure. That's because their nervous system has learned to associate the act with safety or relief. Maybe they once bit their lip as a child to avoid being scolded, and now they do it instinctively whenever they feel even slightly uneasy, even if the situation is harmless. In the end, reading someone's emotions from lip biting isn't about spotting a single action and jumping to conclusions. It's about understanding the person's emotional state, the context of the situation, and their overall personality. You have to ask yourself, what are they feeling? What might they be trying to hold back? What emotions are they not ready to show? When you piece all these clues together, you'll start to see that biting the lower lip isn't just a nervous gesture. It's a tiny window into the person's deeper emotional world. And if you learn to observe these little moments closely, you can understand people more deeply, far beyond what their words ever reveal.
5. Taking a deep breath before answering may indicate someone is thinking carefully or hiding something. When you notice someone take a deep breath before answering a question, it may seem like a small, insignificant action. But in psychological terms, this behavior can reveal quite a lot about how their brain and emotions are processing the moment. A deep breath doesn't happen without reason. It's the body's way of physically responding to mental pressure and emotional tension. First, we have to understand what happens in the mind when a person is asked a question, especially one that touches on truth, responsibility, or anything that might affect how others perceive them. If the question is simple, the brain doesn't need much effort to respond. The answer comes out naturally. But if the question involves pressure, judgment, or consequences, the brain kicks into high gear. That's when physical signs start to appear, like a deep breath, as the body tries to regulate its emotional state and regain control. Not everyone who takes a deep breath before speaking is lying. There are several reasons why this might happen. Some people do it because they need time to process what they've just heard. They want to give the most accurate, thoughtful answer possible. They're not trying to deceive anyone. They simply value clarity, correctness, and making sure they respond in the best way. For them, a deep breath is about giving the brain more oxygen to perform at its best. Then there are those who use a deep breath as a way to buy time. They don't yet have an answer, or they're not ready to speak their real thoughts. They might be searching for a polite excuse, a distraction, or even fabricating a lie to protect themselves. A deep breath gives them a few extra seconds to compose a believable reply. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's just self-preservation. What makes things more interesting is how different people respond to the same kind of pressure differently. This comes down to each person's mental wiring and what psychologists call cognitive biases. Some people are wired to fear blame. When they're asked something sensitive, their brain quickly tries to find the safest answer. Others are deeply concerned with how they're perceived. They want to seem smart, capable, or confident, so they pause and take a deep breath to craft the best possible response. And still others have developed a habit of defending themselves emotionally. They take a deep breath not to think clearly, but to plan a small lie that protects themselves. That's why we can't assume that one single behavior, like breathing deeply, tells the whole truth. We have to read it in context, alongside other clues like tone of voice, eye contact, facial expression, and whether their words match the emotions they seem to be feeling. If someone takes a deep breath and then speaks calmly, maintains eye contact, and offers a reasonable, consistent answer, they're probably just being thoughtful. But if they take a deep breath and then look away, speak softly, or use vague language, they may be hiding something or trying to avoid the truth. From the perspective of cognitive psychology, our brains tend to follow the path of least resistance, the easiest, most familiar way to respond. But under pressure, that changes. The brain switches from fast, automatic responses to slower, more deliberate thinking. That shift uses more energy, and that's when people often take a deep breath to fuel the brain and prepare for a more careful response. At the same time, we all carry mental baggage from past experiences. Some people have learned, consciously or not, that taking a deep breath helps them stall when they're not ready to answer. If someone has gotten away with lying before, their subconscious starts linking deep breathing with preparing a lie, and it becomes an automatic habit whenever they feel cornered. So if we want to understand what someone's deep breath means, we have to slow down and observe more than just that one moment. Did their facial expression change? Are they speaking as smoothly as usual? Does their answer fit with what they said earlier? If anything seems out of place, that deep breath might be a signal that something inside them is in conflict and they're trying to manage it before speaking. The truth is, everyone handles pressure differently. Some people breathe deeply to feel confident. Some do it because they fear being wrong. Some are protecting their image, and some are hiding something. These responses come from a mix of past experiences, emotional triggers, inner fears, and mental habits. That's why no single gesture should ever be judged on its own. It should be seen as a small window into their inner world, one that, if we're paying close attention, can help us understand people in a much deeper way.